What's going on, everyone? Salute, goatee.
Bobby Kicks back in the mix.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Bobby Kicks, this is I like to say all our episodes are special, but this one right here.
Oh, yeah. Long time coming.
Ooh, buddy. Ooh, buddy. The background says it all. The background says it all. But Bobby Kicks, where are we?
We're in the Kickstream Podcast Studios, the new home of Kickstream Podcast at Top Rocker Tattoo Studios.
Right.
Okay. Our new sponsor and partner for Kickstream Podcast here. We're in Peoria, Arizona, as always.
Yep.
And thank you once again for being our partner in crime in this journey here. And make sure to follow them on Instagram and go to the website for all their services, tattoos, art studio, cover-ups, all things ink.
Yep.
If you're looking for some fresh ink and you're in the Phoenix area or Peoria area, come check them out. TopRockerTattoos.com.
Yes,
check
sir.
them out.
Check them out. Thank you. Salute again, Top Rocker. Thank you very much for embracing the Kickstream movement, the Kickstream podcast movement. Really, really appreciate it. And viewers, right? Listeners, thank you as always. We're featured in all of our major podcasts and platforms, but viewers specifically, YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button down below. Yep. Follow our journey. This is exciting. We're in season 3. Yep. Super excited. And let us know your thoughts, right? Let us know in comments. Let us know. We always engage. Want to hear your thoughts on the different topics. And even if you have some show ideas, let us know. You know what I mean?
Kickstreampodcast.com.
Yes, sir.
Check them out.
Yes,
You'll
sir.
find auto links there. So that's it.
But Bobby, let's get into, we have a very special, I like to call it a piece of art wrapped in plastic.
Yes.
Right? We got and also we have I like to call it the Kickstory computer, right? The Kickstory computer. This is just going to be, because we're going to take a trip down memory lane with some fact checking and just timeline pieces. So, but Bobby, talk to the audience and viewers. What is this episode about?
Like you said before, we have the laptop because we have a lot of information to cover here.
Yes, sir.
And the background says it all. We got Penny Hardaway on the mind. This is a long time coming because, he is an awesome player.
Yep.
Awesome gear back in the 90s.
Yep.
He has made a huge impact in the footwear game and the shoe culture till this day.
That's a fact. Bobby, that's a fact. And I like to call Penny my Biggie Smalls, my Notorious B.I.G.
Okay.
When I look at Penny, right? So great, but we had such a short career.
Yeah, it was.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Brooklyn represent what's good, Brooklyn. Bed-Stuy, Biggie. That's my hero. That's our superhero. And Biggie only gave us 2 albums.
Wow.
That's
true. That's true. Right when you think about it, you're like, wow,
he only gave us 2 albums. So Penny, although Penny, he had a career, but the Penny that we know, we only had him for like 4 years.
Yeah, he was explosive right off the bat, man. Like, he made a huge impact, but it was, in terms of like timeline, it was short-lived.
Right.
But the memories that he did leave behind is like timeless. It like went. It felt like it was like 20 years.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a great point. And would you contribute that to marketing?
Oh, heck yeah.
Right?
Marketing on top of the his style of play.
Right.
Because when he came onto the scene, they thought of him as like the Magic Johnson.
The new Magic Johnson.
Smooth, passer, great playmaker,
Athletic.
He flew over people, man. He's just like slammed, so.
And you know what? He had this cool, calm demeanor about him.
Bingo.
You know what I'm saying? Like he was cooking Jordan. I remember those Bulls playoffs. Jordan couldn't guard Penny, and then Pippen had to guard him, and he was still getting cooked. So Penny was unguardable.
Yeah.
Right? But he hit clutch shots. He plays, and he had the same. I don't even think Penny smiled, man, when he was on court. He just chilled.
That's one thing I noticed in the documentary that he did with Shaq.
Right. That was a good doc.
It was a great doc. And he did mention, there's like, I was always like the quiet one. Shaq was like the clown, he was like, what is it? The showman.
Right.
And Penny was just like, behind the scenes, very calm, like you said.
Nonchalant.
But Nike saw something in him, when it came to like, creating, his shoe line and stuff like that. So obviously that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to go through his history, his sneaker history, his Kickstory, because again, in my eyes, Penny was, again, my opinion, I think second in terms of like signature line, and we're going to talk about like what that means, because I have a different meaning behind the signature line. compared to you. And we talked about this off camera a little bit here. And
Yeah. We have this, but let's go back to when Penny was first kind of recognized.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like in the public eye, right? We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have social media. We relied on like newspaper and ESPN and, you know, things of that nature and highlights. And Penny made his mark, and it's so fitting. And Penny, I respect you so much. Hopefully one day we could be blessed to interview you with Kickstory and have a Rooted Soul episode with you, Penny.
Yeah.
Put the energy out there, right?
Yeah.
But Penny, he coaches at Memphis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's cool.
Memphis Tigers. But that's where he went to school, college.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know what I mean? He went to Memphis from 91 to 93. And I remember seeing highlights of Penny 91, 93. I'm like, what, 10, 11 years old, 12? I'm a young buck. But I remember seeing him just being athletic. Slim athletic kid.
Slim Jim. Yeah. But he was like a high flyer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Playmaker.
Right. And if we're going to go down Kickstream, once again, we got our little laptop just to just make sure.
So much, information we can't store it here. So we need the backup. Yeah.
And let me tell you, Penny had a lot of kicks.
Yeah, he did.
Outside of this, his signature. Damn, Bobby.
Yeah.
A lot of kicks. But he started off in Memphis, and one of his profound sneakers that he wore was Cons, actually Converse.
Converse.
Owned by Nike, right?
Yeah, now.
Back then it wasn't.
It wasn't.
And it was called the Accelerator RS1.
Okay.
And I remember that being a college sneaker in general.
Super high top.
Oh, Bobby kicks high top.
I love it. Yeah.
Bobby kicks high top. So he had that suede and they had leather, but I remember seeing prominently like all black suede with just Cons. You could just see the word Cons. It wasn't even Converse.
Yeah.
Pardon me, Converse. Yep.
And what's cool about Converse back in the day, it was so competitive against like Reebok and Nike and those heavy hitters back in the day.
Right.
It stood alone.
Right.
You had like, good, great players wearing Converse. And if you even step it back before the 90s, you had the weapons, the Converse weapons, which was popular. Magic Johnson, Derrick Johnson. We had the colorways that fit their team, right? Mm-hmm. So Converse was pretty dominant in the early 90s. And they were really, piggybacking off of like players too. They say, hey, we got shoes for you.
Yeah, and the cool thing about those accelerators, it had the same React technology.
Love it.
As our man Grandmama.
Oh yeah.
Introduced the sneakerverse to that Converse React technology, that little yellow liquid, neon yellow liquid.
It's funny, React before Nike React.
Good point.
It's kind of interesting the way that worked out, right?
Good point.
But yeah, you're right, man. Like that React technology was super cool. The Aero Jams, there were so many cool things that Converse was doing, and Penny was, in his college years, super high tops. Cool uniforms,
Right, with that tiger, that blue, that tiger. Yeah, Memphis was dope.
Yeah.
And then, Penny got drafted 1993, 3rd overall.
To where? What team first?
Originally, Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, that was such a trip.
But was that a test? You was testing me, man?
No, yeah. I was curious because I was like, because when you think of Penny, you always think of Orlando Magic.
Right.
Magic's all the way through. But there's that little blip in his history that it's like, he could have been a Warrior.
Straight up C-Web.
And that whole drama behind like what Shaq wanted for his team when he was already with Orlando.
Right.
But they weren't listening to him. And then we want Webber. We want Chris Webber.
Yep.
And then last minute, the trade happened. And then, we got Shaq happy again to, getting Penny. Yeah.
100%. And I remember that draft and, Chris Webber was number 1. Sean Bradley was number 2.
Yeah.
Remember
crazy.
Sean Bradley was crazy in college. Like blocking shots. Like Sean Bradley was crazy. We didn't see that type of, he was like Manute Bol, right? In that height, that 7'6", 7'7". But he had a little athleticism too. He had a little game.
Yeah.
Right?
He moved. He moved.
Right? He moved. So Penny was number 3. And he started off rookie year, he was wearing the Air Swift. You remember the Air Swift?
Yeah. Those were cool. Yeah. The design.
That little white design. I remember seeing Pippen wearing them too.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Scotty wearing them. So
different colorways.
He had the Air Swift. And then, you want to look at the next one he had after that?
Air Up.
No, Air Up and the Air Prevail.
Because they had the ups, right?
Right.
The Prevails, yeah.
And the Prevail, if you remember the Prevail, it had like a zigzag.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing like Michigan players wearing them. You remember that?
Okay.
Like the Chris Webber days, not even like this is more like when Chris Webber graduated, like Ray Jackson, Jimmy King.
So it was like the class after.
Yeah, the class after, man. They had the little squiggly line, man. So that was dope.
So now he's wearing Nike. Now he's getting the Nike because he
started off his rookie at Nike.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure there's some influence behind Nike. Hey, we want
Right.
to, bring you in the Nike family.
They saw the vision.
Yeah, because Nike at the time, we're thinking early 90s. When you think of early 90s, you have some heavy hitters wearing Nike. Now, Nike's like across the board.
Right.
NBA players are wearing Nikes, right?
Right.
And again, they have some really cool, like just silhouettes, styles. Technology was really hitting hard in the basketball realm. Like 90s, Nike basketball was heavy.
Signatures.
And him, Penny Hardaway, with his athleticism, Nike wanted a piece of that. They wanted to align with like his energy. So it's like, hey, let's show him some love. The PEs.
Right.
Then we started getting into the PE world, right? He gives some exclusives, right?
And you know what? And I think Penny came at the perfect time because the NBA was kind of confused about MJ. Penny came in 93, MJ leaving.
True, you're right.
Okay.
93,
so,
exiting, yeah.
Right? And we saw that when Penny wore those Orlando Magic Jordan 9s. Yes. With that number 1 in the back.
With the number 1 in the back.
And that's when I was really, really excited about Jordan. Yeah. Because I was confused. Damn, we got no more MJ. Yeah. But then we had some Jordan. We had some Jordan 9 PEs during that was time. Cool.
And then we had, a dynamic player that kind of filled in the gap of like Nike leaving.
Correct, Mundo.
And I think a lot of players and teams are like, all right, this is our opportunity. Let's take advantage of Jordan's gone. We got to, be competitive. We got to win that chip.
Right.
And these teams were really competitive back, when, we have Houston Rockets, we got Orlando Magics, Nick Anderson, you got Penny Hardaway, you got Shaq, you got Scott Skiles.
You got 3D, Dennis Scott.
You had all these players coming in, right? So, these teams,
they went to the championship.
That's right.
They lost. Unfortunately, they lost to Houston. They got swept.
Yeah.
That was barely Penny, but they went to the championship.
A lot of learning lessons there.
Yes.
Learn lessons.
Yes.
And again, Penny was like, Nike was getting closer and closer to,
right. Right.
So, Jordan 9s love it. That all like that charcoal colorway with the hints of blue with that 1 in the back.
Right.
Yep.
That's a
awesome.
Bobby kick. That's your favorite.
I got to get that, man, somehow. Or release it. Come on, Nike. Release that.
You know what? It's Secret Society. All we ask is trust. Go on a hunt, Bobby. Yeah. Go on a hunt for Penny PEs.
True.
Why not?
That would be a grail. That's
100%.
like that's like a obscure under the radar.
100%. 100%. And then we get a little acting vibe from Penny, right? Because after his rookie year, now he getting into remember Blue Chips?
Yes.
Blue Chips with Shaq?
Yes.
They wore Reeboks during the team scene. What was this Reeboks called? These were the Reebok Pump Vertical. You remember it was like black and white?
And what's interesting about that timeline is that, okay, he's wearing Nikes, he's wearing PEs.
Right.
But then, he's wearing Reeboks. Now, again, Penny hasn't signed to Nike. He was still like a free agent. He wasn't like...
He didn't have, Yeah,
he didn't have, anyone like, in
terms of signature, like a signature.
He wasn't signed with anyone.
Yeah.
Just like the Kobe years when he had that, agency. So that's why he was able to wear those Reeboks. So, that was like, okay... And I'm sure Nike saw that as like, wait a minute, we got to pull him back in. He's wearing the Reeboks. I don't know.
Great call, Bobby.
And Reebok and Nike were like, during that time. So it's like, you got Shaq wearing his cool stuff with Reebok. So I could see like, Nike's like, we can't lose this guy.
You know what? It's so funny when you paint that picture because, they had so much of a war that in 92, Jordan... Reebok sponsored Team USA Dream Team.
That was another thing.
And Jordan covered up the Reebok Vector logo with American flag.
Yeah.
That's how devoted, that's how serious that sneaker war was, man.
I heard some sound bites of Jordan talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, F that, I'm not going to wear that. No, watch. Oh, they want me to wear it? Watch what I'm going to do. He was very like competitive. He was competitive. When it comes to his brand, his name, his team, his game, it's like across the board, he was competitive.
Right.
That's funny, yeah.
And you know what's funny about that? You just said, hey, Penny was a free agent. Nike said we got to do something. They made action because when Penny came back that following year after Blue Chips, now we get the Air Ups.
Yeah.
We get the Nike Air Up. Then we get the Nike Flight 1.
Flight 1s with the Orlando colorways, with the introduction of a type of logo, which was revolved around the 1.
Yeah, it was just one.
But it wasn't like what we know today, right?
Right.
It's like kind of like an earlier version of what we see today.
It was Nike. It was what you said, Bobby. Nike needed to respond. Nike probably saw him wearing them Reeboks, and it was like, okay, design team, let's go.
Yeah, we can't lose them.
Let's inch him in. So the Air Up had number 1 in the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The Flight 1 had number 1 sticking out.
That jeweled
one.
Yeah.
Which MJ wore, cut it off.
Yeah,
right? So
that was a cool
pairs for the patent leathers.
little blip in the history there because, as you know, briefly, Jordan was wearing some shoes that he was getting fined.
The Concords.
Because of the colorway.
Concords.
And crap, well, I need a pair of shoes.
Yep.
Asked Penny, who was a rivaling team that he was playing against, you got a pair of shoes? Yes. I like everything except this one.
Cut the one off, and then he gave us the black Concords the next game, right?
And they were working behind the scenes trying to get him a black pair. And they're saying, well, these aren't ready, but all right, you can wear them. That's the little story behind that where Tinker's like, we got these shoes, they're not ready, but okay, here.
Right. Yeah, and it was that's such a sneaker moment. Like, that's a crazy moment that Jordan wore non-Jordans, especially during that time in his career. I understand early Jordan, but that time, come on, that's crazy.
And so you bring up a funny thing. In my timeline, in my what do you call that? Roster of sneakers, I consider those Jordans.
Right. This is a Penny episode. We ain't gonna go there because I'm about to have a rebuttal. The fact that you just said the Air Flight 1s are Jordans.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ignore that.
Okay.
I'm gonna ignore that.
I say they are because he wore them.
All right.
But I know what you mean. They're not signatures, but they are Jordans because he did wear them. Anyways,
I mean,
that's the Penny, right?
All right. Yeah. Bobby trying to throw me off course, man.
Yeah.
Stop doing it. You know, you was baiting me a little bit. You was baiting me. I saw you doing. Hey, in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Right. All-Star game. Penny wore that Nike Air Lambaste. You remember that? Low top?
Yeah.
Little Nikes, small, little bejeweled Nike check.
And it had those little bubbles. Right. It had those little like flight bubbles.
The Labastes?
Yeah. It had like the circular on the side.
I can see a zoom up of them.
Yeah, you start seeing like this circular like design aesthetic to it. And then you start seeing like, all right, where Nike's taking this. And I got excited about that because years later I saw with the Flight 95s. It got expanded. The bubble got bigger, you know, and then it started using the jewels.
Yeah, I see it.
So
I'm looking at it right.
Yeah. So when I noticed, I was like, oh, these are kind of cool, you know?
But you know what's interesting? Like, and I love that we can look at this live. Like, I'm looking at this live because I see two versions of the Labaste. I see the bubble one you're talking about, and then I see a non-bubble one that just has more like medium cuts.
Yeah,
so
it looks kind of like a generic basketball shoe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't have like anything
crazy,
eye-catching, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, he wore those. He wore that version in the All-Star game in Phoenix. Those uniforms. I'm looking at it right now.
Those uniforms are awesome. That one, and then you get into the San Antonio one. Like, that was a cool, like, Southwest style.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, what about those? Now he's also wearing the Nike Ergo LWP.
Those are cool. Smooth.
We refer to those for Tim Hardaway, right? When we think of those, think of Tim Hardaway, but Penny wore those too.
Yeah. Another Hardaway. Two Hardaways, right?
Good point.
But yeah, the Flight, it was part of the Flight series, so that's kind of cool, you know? Yeah. The Flights were awesome too. Yeah.
I like to call it the Script Flight series.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we had the late 80s
Block F.
The Block F, but now we get into that script.
Yeah.
I always tell people, Bobby, Nike had an energy when it came to like logos. It was like a phase, right? When you wore the clothing, that Script Flight, it was just something different about it. Can't explain it.
It feels like luxurious because it's in script now. Yeah, it's like, wow, it's like higher end, you know?
Right. Now, Nike prepared us. Like you said, maybe they responded over blue chips. And Bobby, I never thought of that, but I see that. Why don't you talk about how Nike introduced us to Penny?
We're talking about the Air Penny ones.
Yes, sir.
So what's interesting about this shoe is now we're going to the Max. Now we're going to the Air Max. You know, we want to show them, you know, we want to create something a little bit more unique that reflects like his style of play, right? We got to give him cushion support. We got to give him a nice splash of like that jeweled logo, you know, all these, aesthetics that I know.
Don't forget 4-foot zoom in.
True.
The zoom. 4 from zoom in the front.
Coming in the play.
4 from zoom in. Yep. Go ahead.
And again, all this new tech that they wanted to give him because obviously his explosive, you know, style of play reflects the shoe that's going to, you know, keep up with that. Right. So Air Penny 1, Air Max 1.
Yep.
Which is like officially it was an Air.
It's called a Nike Max Penny.
That's it. The Max Penny.
Max Penny.
Right.
This was the introduction. I like to call this the Eric Avar era.
Okay.
As you guys have probably seen in our Rooted Souls with Aaron Cooper labeled Eric Avar the greatest designer of all time. And this wasn't my first time hearing that. I heard that before, Bobby. But Eric Avar really showed off what he did with Penny. People now, new school people know him for Kobe line, but his meat and potatoes is like what he really stamped himself was the Penny line. And that Air Max, it was shocking when I first saw the Max Penny ones.
It's such an awesome shoe. Yeah.
That white wing that popped out.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is that? We've never seen that before ever in a sneaker. Right? That design aesthetics, the little lines that was inside of it, how the midsole goes up to the upper area, then the blue bejeweled, and then the all white pair.
Yeah.
Right? It had the same design elements, but it wasn't no color blocking. Right? So the Orlando Magic pinstripe tongue.
Yeah, that was a cool little detail. Yeah, too. And, like you said, Eric Avar, under the radar, he's not in the spotlight,
right?
But made so much impact, for the sneaker game and technology and style. And, him working with Aaron Cooper,
right,
and Tinker Hatfield. Like during that era, it's like heavy hitters. And on top of that, what else do we see? Little Penny in the mix, right?
Chris Rock voice,
yeah,
Little Penny.
Now we start seeing the genius marketing, behind.
Yes.
Ramping up the Penny.
Yes.
Image.
Yes. And it bought, and you know what? It was perfect. White and Kennedy, right? White and Kennedy marketing agency. It was a perfect way to showcase a chill dude.
True. That's a great point.
Because Little Penny was so out there. Penny's the introvert. Little Penny was the extrovert. So it was almost like Penny Hardaway wanted to be Little Penny, but he didn't know how to do it. So Wider than Kennedy and Nike teamed up together and they created this image to really push the product.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great point. It was like his inner child that wanted to come out.
Yes, sir. There we go.
And Little Penny
brilliant.
is brilliant.
Brilliant.
And the whole great voice. Great voice actor
with Tyra Banks and all that. That was his girlfriend.
Chris Rock was like perfect for that. So yeah.
Come on. And what I loved about the introduction to Penny, it only gave us 3 colorways. It gave us that white Orlando Magic blue, that Atlantic blue. It gave us that all white, and then it gave us the All-Star / Playoff, which is all black.
Yeah, you're right.
Jeweled, right? And I love how it just had like the little inside the swoosh logo, had that little thunder, little lightning. Eric Avar, you're a genius. Like, that was just an amazing introduction to a shoe.
On top of that, what do we see is the logo.
Let's talk about that.
We start seeing, the 1, but it's more of a stylistic one now.
1 cent.
It's just, it's the 1 cent. Now,
come on.
Brilliant. He's wearing the number 1. His nickname is Penny. His real name is Anthony Hardaway.
Right.
Anthony Penny Hardaway.
Right.
And the name Penny comes from his grandma. His grandma used to call him.
Right.
So he borrowed that and he kept it for a while. So that name stuck with him and now it became like his name. So Nike did a great job of piggybacking off of his nickname.
Right.
The number 1.
Right.
And creating a 1 cent idea behind it. So it is just, it all comes together really nicely. So that's awesome.
Absolutely genius. And so we just got off this amazing high with the Max Penny 1 or the Air Max Penny.
Yeah.
And then we get into now the second dream team. Now we in 96. And now we go into the Nike Flight Zoom 96. Well, it wasn't 90. It was just called Nike Flight Zoom back then. Right. But Nike's so genius. They so genius that that wasn't an official Penny signature, but they gave us his Olympic number 6.
Yeah, it was a PE.
Right.
A PE. And 96 was an awesome year, man, for Nike. Honestly, and especially during the Olympic times. Mm-hmm. Like they brought out the best in terms of like technology, gear, and all that good stuff. But 96 as a whole was a great freaking year. And Penny, in my opinion, was leading the way because again, his explosive way of playing was very competitive compared to what Jordan was doing too. Yep. So honestly, a lot of people were leaning. I mean, his sales were going up.
Yeah.
Like Nike was seeing like, hey, Penny's like up and close to Jordan's.
He's not even up and coming. He's actually here.
Yeah.
You feel me?
And the sales were proving that too.
Yes,
Nike
sir.
Sales were going off the chart.
1,000%. 1,000%. And one thing I will always forever remember about the Flight Zoom, the Nike Flight Zoom in the Olympics was, yes, it had number 6 in the back, but it also introduced us to a series of Nike sneakers that this is when Nike was like, you know what? It's time to really, really, really showcase Zoom Air.
True.
Okay,
True.
because we always knew it was Zoom Air, was originally called Tensile Air, and they mentioned that, but 96 specifically, they pointed out the Zoom because they had a series of sneakers, including these, that on the outsole had those little circles.
And that was like their
And it showed-
signature.
and that was a signature for that summer, that year.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do. I remember that because it was such a cool little design aesthetics
Oh,
that
man.
it looked super like advanced. It looked futuristic.
It made to me that was the graduation from Tensile Air to Zoom Air. It was 96 for me because it's like Nike really stamped it on the bottom of their soles with that little circular design.
And that specific shoe had a lot of cool things to look at on the design.
Right.
It had that like carbon fiber, like little, swirly line on the side, bubble.
Pops out,
and then the
right.
circular, like you said, designs on the bottom. It was like transparent too.
And then even the upper had like line curves.
It was wavy. Yeah,
It was wavy.
Yeah.
It was like going down a slide.
And that nice
know what
little
I mean?
Zoom Air font, very luxurious, very clean, very, very just like modern. And it fit
Right.
players that wore it, man. And Hardaway just really elevated that, so
Right.
it was awesome.
So after Dream Team 2, we now I say Penny and Biggie, right? Because the Max Penny 1 is like life after death, right? In terms of if you're a Biggie Smalls fan, Notorious B.I.G., you understand his first album. Now, his second album, Ready to Die, you're like, oh my gosh, double CD, and he's rhyming like Bone Thugs. Like, I'm very East Coast biased, sorry, but that's where I'm going right now. But I look at Ready to Die, Biggie album, as the Air Max Penny 2.
Okay.
Because I'm like, wait a minute, Eric Avar, you hit us with a back-to-back?
Yeah.
We have another great, and I may think the Penny 2 looks better than the Penny 1.
Wow. That's a statement.
I tend, because and I'm going to tell you real quick. First of all, genius. It kept with the wing idea. The wing came, that little wing pops out.
True.
So now we got lines with the wing. Then we got 3M hints. I'm a 3M dude.
3M. Anything that shines, you're like,
Right? Then that little circular line I talked about with the 96. Now we had that in the forefront in the soul.
True.
Emphasizing Zoom Air.
True.
Then we got Max here. And it was just an amazing design element. Kept the 1 cent. But that's what I want to say.
Definitely a crazy design. Like something I've never really seen before in a basketball shoe. There's a lot of waves. There's a lot of curves, on top of the big air bubble on the back. That new logo, that 1 cent logo is splashed on there. The back with the swirls. There's so much to look at in this shoe, right? The little carbon fiber on the side there, kind of little hints there. What's interesting about the Penny 2 is that everyone remembers the Penny 2 more than the Penny 1.
Why so?
Good question. I mean, like honestly, I think it's more attractive looking. If you were to if you were to do a side by side, I think the Penny 2 had a lot of things to look at compared to the Penny 1.
Right.
The Penny 1 was great, but when you compare it to the Penny 2, it looked like it was just futuristic.
Super futuristic.
So people always gravitate to the Penny 2 when it comes to like the which one really captured their attention first. The Penny 1 is great. I actually like the Penny 1.
Right.
But the Penny 2 has a little bit more of like bells and whistles to look at.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Aesthetically, design-wise.
Yeah. And I love the fact, once again, you only hitting us with 3 colors. We got the black and white Atlantic. We got the all white with the 1 cent logos on the ankle collar now.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we got the white Atlantic blue, which is the white Atlantic blue is so crazy.
Those black ones were awesome.
Black
man.
one's so crazy.
With the black uniform, dude, that just like popped.
So, yeah. So, the first pennies you gave us 3 colorways. Second pennies you gave us 3 colorways. Every single one was classics. To me, if you stop and think, that's probably one of the best first 2 sneakers, the signature athlete, the greatest ever.
I think so too. I think if I were to compare it to like Jordan's 1 and 2, I think the Penny's 1 and 2 is stronger. That's a good point. One other thing about the 1s and the 2s, personally,
Right.
and I'm just talking about retros.
Right.
The Penny 1 is more comfortable on court than the Penny 2s.
Okay. Now OG.
Now I'm talking about the.
Oh, okay. Talk about retros. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah,
You would know that.
yeah, I've tried both of them, and the
Right.
Penny 2s retros were very bulky.
The Penny 2 retro tends to look more of a lifestyle Nike
it's
than
style.
basketball.
It's more style.
Because the tech, even the Zoom Air in the front, I had the Penny 2 retros, and I was like, I don't want these because it didn't give me that night. I remember when that little bounce in the 4-foot bounce, and when I saw it, I was just so disappointed. But I didn't play ball in them. But I thought you meant OG because the OG Penny 2s were cushion galore.
Okay, yeah, I believe it because I had a friend actually had a pair, and we used to play on court, and it just looked comfortable. But obviously the quality is different, right? But the black ones were it, man, when it comes to like performance, because I think those were made like out of suede or nubuck. They were different. They weren't leather, so a lot more flexible.
It was like two different materials too.
Yeah.
It was like upper, right? We can go on and on, but penny one, penny two. But let's talk about what you have in the plastic right now, because once again, Eric Avar, thank you. Thank you again, Eric Avar. We see why you're labeled the greatest designer ever. Go ahead, Bobby.
So penny 1 and 2.
Yes.
Signatures.
Yes.
They had his name on it.
Yes.
Right? The penny 1,
yes.
the penny 2. Then the controversy happens, right?
Dun, 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 dun.
I think this is more of a modern day controversy, because back in the day, they didn't really think about it that way,
we didn't
right?
care.
Right. Now we get introduced to a new technology, a new way of looking at basketball performance sneakers, right? We got Eric Avar still in the kitchen cooking up a new something.
Different.
Something that's outside the box.
Different.
Foam technology with zoom, and, a unibody is just one
shell.
It's just one mold. Foamposite 1.
Introduced by
Mike Bibby.
Yes, sir.
So,
what up, Mike Bibby? Salute, Mike Bibby.
Mike Bibby. A quick history behind the story of Foamposite and how it came to be in the public eye.
As told by Mike Bibby when we featured him, when we met with Mike Bibby. Salute again, Mike Bibby.
Check out that clip on Instagram.
Yes,
on our
sir.
page. You'll see what we're talking about. So, legend has it, rumor has it, which is kind of true now,
but
is the Foamposite was supposed to be for Pippen.
Yep.
But Penny saw him before he did.
Yep.
In the bag in the office when they brought him in. Hey, what is that? He caught his eye. I want that.
Right.
And, the design was like, just eye catching.
Right.
And then, pull some strings, I guess, and it became his shoe. So that's where the controversy happens. Okay, it's his shoe or isn't it his shoe? Because
what do you? Let's have this conversation, because we have two different opinions. So, I want to hear your opinion first. Is that a Penny Hardaway signature shoe?
yes,
Okay.
because there's a lot of points to this.
Okay.
We call this sneaker the Nike Air Foamposite 1.
Yep.
Okay, we have his logo on it.
Logo on it is a big deal.
He wore it exclusively. I didn't see any other player wear it.
On NBA court, yeah.
No one wore this shoe, this model with this color.
That color. Tim Duncan wore the pros.
But they weren't. That's not a penny.
That's, yeah.
Because it had a Nike
Pocket
swoosh
Pro.
on the back, and it had a different outsole.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So those ingredients tells me
That's a signature.
That's a signature.
Okay. I see your point, and we've had this conversation 10,000 times. In my eyes, that is not. First of all, let's just recognize that's a 1997, guys.
Yeah. We have OG on the table right here.
Yeah, I asked Bobby, and this is your personal pair. I asked you if you can unwrap it, but I'm
a little risky business.
It's a little risky business, especially with that carbon fiber. I see it may be a little cracky. I don't know, but that's an OG. Salute.
Beautiful shoe.
That changed my mind about sneakers in '97. Anyway,
yes.
I don't think that's a penny signature. I think that was a marketing shoe. I think that was a shoe to introduce us to a new wave of Nike. And what better way to do that than at the time, the hottest guy in NBA.
Yeah.
Pause. The most prominent, most not even eccentric. He at one point with MJ reign, with MJ having 72-10, winning in 96 with MJ's MJ. But Nike knew that they needed somebody outside of Penny. And I think that to introduce that was the perfect way. And it was like an ode to the new era of Nike basketball.
And it was one of the most expensive shoes to produce.
Yes.
And to be sold
right.
at the price point, you know.
Right.
Close to $200,
right.
which was, I think, the second or third shoe in the Nike's history of shoes to be sold
right.
at that price point.
Right.
Right. New technology, very expensive for them to produce.
Right.
Because it was not, it hasn't been done before.
Right.
They had to produce a unique mold, a mold to produce this shape.
100%.
You know, so there's a lot of newness to this.
And you know what? They don't want to admit it, but that shoe was about to get banned. Because Penny, the all Atlantic blue did not coincide with the Orlando Magic. Okay. So Penny had to literally get a marker and color the insides of the foam panels, the little indentations black. And if you remember that retro, they had the black marker, the Sharpie, excuse me, the Sharpie Foamposite. Yeah. So that, if Nike really wanted to push the envelope during that time, they could have had that, what they did with MJ's Airship. Oh, my bad. Air Jordan 1s, right?
Yeah.
Band, right? Yeah. But they could have done the same thing, but
True.
Penny's like, I need these on court.
And what was funny about that little story is that the reason why he did that much black instead of the whole thing black is because he only needed to cover the shoe at a percentage in black,
right?
For it to be in regulation,
right?
So he's like, you know what? I'm not going to do the whole shoe, so I'm just going to I'm going to have fun with it,
right?
I'm going to just do some of the areas that I think is going to really help it pop, and it helped it.
It helped it. It helped it. Now, back in the days, I didn't know that. I found that a little bit older that he did that, because when you saw it from afar, it just looked blue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And another little quick thing about that little workaround.
Right.
If you think about it, he played for the Tigers.
Right.
The Tigers had this stripe.
Right.
So it kind of worked in his favor.
Right.
That whole.
He actually made it retro like that too.
Yeah, a little homage to his college years.
That's kind of cool.
The tiger stripes.
Tiger tail type thing.
Yeah, the claw type. The pattern of the tiger. So he kind of did that in a way. It kind of worked in his favor.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Now let's move on, because the remaining segments is going to be kind of short. Let me tell you why. Because Penny sneakers reflected his career, and it's so unfortunate. It's like Grant Hill, right? It's like Grant Hill, right? Grant Hill was unguardable. Grant Hill, we never seen a small forward that had a crossover like Grant Hill, and unguardable, and so just low key mild mannered like Penny too.
True,
but the Penny 3, that's why I say he's like Biggie. Penny only gave us 2 albums, okay? Because the Penny 3 is a good shoe, is not a great shoe, right? Eric Avar, you still played off the wings. So we still got some. Now he gave us some Foamposite, because the Penny 3 is a homage to the Foamposite one, because now we got some Foamposite included into that wing. But Penny barely wore him. He was hurt.
Okay.
And so I think that's a reflection of how his sneakers went. Penny had the first 2 most amazing signature sneakers ever in the 1 and 2. And then the 3s were cool. Zoom in the forefoot,
True.
Maxi in the back, incorporated some Foamposite technology.
Yeah.
We got that in there with the wing. But he wore them only a few times. That's
cool
what
commercial too.
Which commercial? Oh, slow motion.
Yeah, the slow motion. I kind of piggybacked off of the Jordan 12, which was funny.
Oh my!
Because it was the same style of music, the same slow motion.
It was hilarious.
Little Penny was in it, so it was really cool.
Little Penny, hitting a rocket, ice cream falling. Did they say in it? Good point.
It was a great. That was a great shoe.
It was.
That was a great performing shoe.
Great or good?
It was great. It was a great performance shoe because it had a lot of the tech that piggybacked off of his other silhouettes, which was the foam, the Foamposite,
right,
the Zoom, and the Max Air,
right.
So it had a lot of those ingredients now molded into one. Honestly, it's a good looking shoe.
It is.
The all black one's cool, like that grayish black, kind of.
I like the blue pop out. Dude. The white with the blue. It was just like. Ooh,
I like those green ones. Yeah, the green ones are nice.
Yeah, but the black one was cool because you're right. The Foamposite was like a shiny gray.
It was like glittery.
Yeah, you know what? Penny 3s were cool. It didn't hit like the 1 and 2 though.
I'll have to say it did.
You think so?
I think it kept up. I think the energy was still high up there.
You think the Penny 3 is on the same level as the Penny 1 and 2?
Yes.
Wow.
I say so.
I respect it.
Yeah, because. Honestly, it was a good looking shoe. It had a lot of cool tech, and Penny, it was just a cool commercial, funny commercial, and it just looked good. It looked good. So I think it had a lot of those same ingredients that made it, in my eyes, a very, very good looking.
Yep. Now, let's talk about the 4s, because that was his last year in Orlando.
Yeah, the 4s.
So I remember having the 4s, right? And I remember okay, it has a strap. It's the first time we see a strap now.
True.
Right? And I'm like, but it just did the Penny 4s hit like the 1, 2, 3 for you?
No, because it lost its originality. To me, aesthetically, it looked like a generic basketball shoe.
Okay.
Now, one plus of that shoe, a plus behind it is the leather,
right,
and the comfortability.
Right, it was comfortable.
It was very comfortable.
The straps to tighten up your ankles for real.
So it had a lot of cool things behind it, but aesthetically, it didn't really reflect its originality.
I can see that. Penny 4 got
at a glance.
Penny 4 got like a little cult following. It's like a little small cult following. The people that just love Penny 4s, and I can see it. My favorite Penny 4 colorway was, and I remember it came out. It was OG, but it didn't release. It didn't release nationwide. It was very obscure. Was like the Phoenix Sun. No, it was the Orlando Magic colorway, but it was black with suede blue.
Okay.
And I just remember seeing that colorway, and it wasn't available in all stores, but that black suede blue, and then he also had a Phoenix Sun colorway too.
Yeah,
that I like years later.
Yeah.
But it just, like you said, it didn't hit. And then once again, it reflected Penny, because that was the last time we saw Penny. That was the last time we saw Penny wear his signature sneaker on court. How about that?
True.
Because then timeline, right? He's wearing the Air Flight Determinations,
and he's battling like his injuries. He's trying to get back into his performance.
He's in
wasn't there.
He's in.
Yeah. That's where he kind of gets watered down.
Lost his luster. Yeah. Lost the thunder. Right. 2K3s. 2K3s was dope. That was a good basketball. Yeah. That was also a brilliant design too. 2K4 Hirachis, right, with the Knicks. The Air Zoom BB. What I do respect Penny is that Penny, when he played in New York, and they actually made they went back to the drawing board. They made an Air Penny Max 1 Knicks colorway with the orange air bubble.
And what's interesting about all the, after Orlando years, when he went to Phoenix, Knicks and the Miami Heat,
right?
They still gave him signatures.
Yeah. Well, look,
right, and PEs in between,
right.
So they gave like silhouettes where they added his, his logo.
Not really signatures, because the Penny 5 didn't come out to years later.
Right. So yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But before that, Penny 5, they gave him PEs.
PEs, yeah.
Which was kind of unique, because you would think, oh no, we're not going to invest in him anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So
they like, you know what? We respect you because what you did to the brand.
True.
So we're not going to leave you out hanging.
True.
Right.
True.
Penny 5s. I didn't care about them.
They're actually not bad looking, but they're not comfortable.
I never had.
I've tried them.
You tried them?
Yeah.
No.
Lifestyle shoes. These weren't actually basketball shoes, from what I heard. From what I heard, they didn't build them for basketball shoes.
And here's the thing. If you look at it, like we're looking at them right now, like okay, I can see the little hill coming up, right? Now they did the 3/4 Air Max bubble, right? They gave it a little extension of 3 Air Max bubble, so I'm seeing it. I see Rondo wore them in the basketball court, but they weren't really
surprisingly.
But they weren't really. You're right. They came off like a lifestyle. Yeah.
What's neat about the Penny 5 is that it has hints of the 2.
Right.
Like if the 2 was like evolved,
right?
This is what it could probably look like,
right?
So it kind of has that.
And then, do you want to talk about the Penny 6? Because I can exclude that. You can go ahead.
They're actually comfortable.
Did you had the Penny 6?
I've worn them. Yes.
Really?
They're actually comfortable.
I was like, I understand that
it takes time to break in, but they're comfortable.
Yeah, I understand that we love the Penny 1s, and I know you got but oh my God, Bob, I think this is a horrendous looking shoe. But you said for comfortability, basketball.
It's not bad. It was not bad. Man. And actually, you bring up a good point. That does have a Max a Penny 1 feel to it.
Times 10.
Right. So it's kind of funny, like, the 5 has the 2.
2, right.
And then the 6 has the 1. So it's kind of going back in time, just like what Jordan's doing right now with their retros.
Right.
Like all the way in the 30s, they're kind of borrowing from like,
from
the back of the day. So they kind of were doing that with this one too.
Good call.
That's funny.
Good call. Now a Penny that I like the Air Zoom Rookie.
Yes.
I like especially the Galaxy. Especially the Galaxy, and these hit during that Galaxy era. These hit, but I didn't mind the Foamposite. I didn't like that they took the little nods from the flight, the Zoom flight. But go ahead, Bobby. Go ahead.
Exactly right. I was gonna say this shoe is a Flight 1.
Yeah.
Evolution.
It is a Flight 1, but did you know the interior of the shoe got the Foamposite lines?
Yeah.
Too. So I didn't mind it.
So this is neat. And they call it the Rookie for what reason?
Well, they call it it's called the Air Zoom Rookie because the Flight 1.
It wasn't his first shoe with Nike.
Good point.
But I'm just interested to hear, to learn more about that. But
it's a fusion because you see the Air Flight 1,
right?
Okay, you see the Air Foamposites, and if you look at the shell, if you just look at the entire shell, the shell is the actual Air Go LP.
Okay.
The actual shell, and that was around his rookie year.
Okay.
Right around early year. So, but I don't know if that's enough to to label it a rookie.
And you know, sometimes Nike like mislabels things where it's like, wait a minute, it's not really that. It should have been this, you know. So maybe it's one of those,
or maybe it's like, you know, it sounds cool.
Maybe. I'm sure there's some story behind it, but
Yeah.
you know, if you notice, like it does have a mashup behind it, because like I said, it piggybacks off of the Foamposite, the Flight 1, and like you said, the
LWP. Yeah, yeah. And then you know, Little Penny. Oh, well. Hold on. Before we get to Little Penny, these are kind of cool too. What about the penny half cent?
Half cent, yeah.
That wasn't that bad.
I wasn't totally in love with it. I think they were doing too much.
I can see that.
I like the idea of introducing Little Penny, because I know in the commercials he's like, wait a minute, how come they don't give me
No. This is not Little Penny one. It was just a hybrid. It was just a hybrid called a half cent. It wasn't a Little Penny. Little Penny actually had his own signature.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Okay, so I got mixed up here.
Yeah, so this was more of just like the Foamposites, the 1s, the 3s. Like, it was a mashup, right?
The hybrid.
But what you're talking about is that.
Yeah, the Little Pennies, yeah. So, and they gave him his own little logo. They gave him his, they also came out with apparel.
Yeah,
you know,
half cent.
Like a half cent, like thing. So.
Word.
But Little Penny has some really cool things. You know, it's nice to see that they gave him a chance to kind of like revive that brand.
Right.
That helped them really, you know, elevate, you know, the Penny signature.
Yeah, I think it was smart of Nike, because, you know, we weren't ready for a Little Penny. Like, Penny has to play for it's been a while since he played.
True.
So they introduced it in the pack, right? You know, they had that Penny pack where they had the shooting stars Foamposite ones, which I love this. I don't know why I love the shooting star white Foamposites ones. So they came in the pack just to help with the promotion, help with the sales of that. But that's pretty much that's our timeline.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of shoes in this whole timeline. Penny, again, was an awesome player.
Yeah.
Great signature shoes till this day, after he's retired, after he's doing some other things with coaching in Memphis.
Right.
Just like Jordan.
Right.
I mean, you know, after he retired, he's still going strong with his signature line. So to me, I consider him like up there when it comes to the signature line.
And I have to say something about these. If you look behind us right now, you look at the creativity that Nike did with this Foamposite shell. You know, from the Galaxies to the Supremes to the Dornbeckers. I mean, just this Foamposite shell, Nike was able to do just some amazing creations.
Yeah.
Imprints.
Nice collabs, yeah.
Collabs and prints off of this Foamposite shell. So this is 2025. The Foamposite is as strong as ever.
And you just proved my point. That's why this is a signature shoe. Because anytime we talk about this shoe, they always interview Penny, and they always talk about like Penny.
Yeah.
So to me, that says it all. That's
Bobby, this show, we already at like 55 minutes. You want to do another hour? Because we're going to have a debate of that?
I'm just saying.
Listen, guys, I want you to go on Instagram and comment below.
Who you voting for? My story or his story?
I just think, it is just a question, right? It's a question. Are the Nike Air Foamposite 1 a Penny signature or not? Bobby Kick says yes. I say no.
Simple question. Hopefully we get some responses. Let us know what you think.
Yes, and thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed this, because it was a lot.
This is a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. That's why we had to pull out the computer, because there's so much information.
Right.
And Penny had a great history, a great career, short-lived, but it was still great in my eyes.
Yep.
Yeah, guys, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Penny, you are the notorious B.I.G. for me. You had 2 triple platinum albums, and the Penny 1, Penny 2, Penny 3 get some love too. But hope you guys enjoyed. And listen, we're blessed to be here. Top Rocker Tattoo Studios in Peoria, Arizona.
Yes.
This is how we doing this season.
Proud sponsor of
Yes, sir.
podcast. Visit us on kickstorypodcast.com.
Yep.
Follow us on all our channels, both audio and video here on YouTube.
Yes,
Subscribe right now. Do it. Comment below. Follow us on Instagram. Follow our journey. Thank you guys for everything, and we'll see you on the next one.
We out, guys. That's all we got.
Peace.
What up, Penny?
Thank you for watching this episode of Kickstory. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any episodes. And stay connected with us on Instagram and these podcast platforms listed here. We also want to hear from you. So make sure to comment below and give us your thoughts. Thanks again for your support, and we'll see you next time.